Welcome to another episode of Bourbon and Rum. This is a podcast of two brothers from opposite ends of the spectrum. My name's Kent. I'm a rum drinker, and I'm from the left side of the aisle.
And I'm Kyle. I like bourbon, tend to be a little more conservative. Join us as we explore this experiment. Can two brothers from different sides of the political spectrum have a civil conversation and celebrate our differences?
What are you drinking?
I am drinking a Ezra Brooks 7-year. This is a distillery that was actually founded back in the 50s, named after somebody that was big in the distilling industry, a guy named Ezra Shelby. But it's MGP whiskey, another Midwest grain product whiskey. But it's really good. It's the 7-year is it's a little harder to find. I got a really good price on this, but yeah, it's really smooth, kind of oaky, vanilla kind of flavors type of thing. It's really good. How about you?
It sounds great. I'm just drinking a Puster's British Navy rum that I've mentioned before, but on the way to my computer workstation, some lime juice and simple syrup spilled into it. So,
Hey.
Yeah. So having a daiquiri.
Well, I have to say, usually sipping bourbon is a welcome thing. We had a little New Year's Eve party last night, and we were fortunate that somebody brought some really good Buffalo Trace products, Blanton's and E.H. Taylor and Stagg Jr. That was the good thing. The bad thing is we had to try all of it a few times. And let's say it's a slow start this year, but it was good. How about you? What'd you guys do last night?
I'll let our producer edit this out, but I have a photograph of her completely cashed out with a timestamp of 8:30 p.m.
Oh, that's awesome. We normally do, but we're down here in College Station at our old neighbor's house and had a party, and kids are all here. So yeah, it was good. I'm always looking for a dance floor at a party, and I found a dance floor on their back patio last night. It worked out really well as a dance floor. So I had that going for me.
Excellent. And probably better to be on private property, honestly, than.
Well, not with all the people we had at that party. There was a lot of cell phones. So who knows? I may be famous.
Well, Happy New Year to you. I mentioned as we prep for the show that we might do a look ahead at the year to come. And I suggested this and then haven't prepared my own answer to this, but that we maybe each identify one hope for the year, one fear for the year ahead, and one concrete prediction for the year ahead.
Yeah. Well, I think, given the timing, it can't go unsaid, the unspeakable tragedy of last night in New Orleans. That was
oh man, unbelievable,
thing, wasn't it?
Horrible.
Yeah, crazy.
Yeah.
Well, and I mean, we've both spent time on Bourbon Street in New Orleans. I mean, you talk about, gosh, you couldn't have picked a worse place for something as crowded as it is, and no place to go, and you're jammed on the streets and scary.
Yeah, awful. Well, yeah. Think about the year to come. What are you looking forward to? What perils do you see ahead?
Yeah, one of the hopes I have is that, and I don't think it's controversial. I mean, I think one of the hopes is that, some of that we get some more peace around the world with the situation in Ukraine, and that would be my hope. Obviously anybody is president. It was my hope last year too, but between Ukraine and Israel and some of the flashpoints, regardless of whose ideas or what, if they can tamp down some of that, I think it would be that would be a hope worth achieving for sure.
Yeah, definitely concur with that. And that's a good one. That wasn't exactly what I was thinking, although that's better. I was thinking a little bit I don't know. I don't know if it's just me. You know, I've really disengaged from a lot of the loudest of the media outlets after the election. You know, I could say, you know, tail between my legs or however you want to describe it. You know, I just have not had the energy to get in and do the arguing and you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
I don't know. My hope is that I'm not ready to lay down any of my the things about Trump that I find repugnant, although I wonder and hope maybe I think it's incumbent on the left to look and say, look, the guy was president for 4 years before. It was not pleasant for those of us who disagreed, but the republic is still standing. And so, you know, let's drop the, you know, the end of history kind of discussion and think thoughtfully about what can be accomplished for the country and maybe dial back the venom a little bit and think about how do we move forward as a country. I guess that would be my hope, is that we, you know, maybe everybody's as tired as I am of just like the in each other's face, like to what end? Like I can't do anything about who's president for 4 years anyway. So
Yeah.
just let me just deal with it.
Well, you know, you bring up an interesting point of being worn out with the shouting and yelling and angry people. I really, you know, and obviously I'm not saying this just because we have a podcast, but I do think the role of podcasting is it really changes the dynamics in a healthy way, I think, from, you know, like political debates and everything else, no matter what side you're on. I mean, the thought of watching one of these TV shows where you get 5 or 6 knuckleheads on there shouting at each other. I mean,
Right. Yeah.
I just see that format going away as one of real influence. I mean, it's not going to go away, but I think people are tuning out of that in general.
Well, I mean, the news programs particularly are that it's like 15 minutes worth of content recycled 4 times an hour, and you can just sit there and it's the same. It's like a conveyor belt of crap.
Right.
And I listened to Joe Rogan some. I think his influence over this election, the fact that Trump went on his program and did well, and Harris didn't do it, you know what I mean? Like, that's a measurable force. You can count that in solid percentage points in the election, and probably enough that it was a bona fide factor in who won. The thing is, for all of what you might think that's great or that's bad, you know, the format of that is a 3.5 hour investigation.
Yeah.
You can't get through that with a couple of talking points.
Right.
And like that may be the best part of it, is that it's a deeper dive in things than you're
Yeah.
going to get on the commentator shows with the panel of 4 people with what they think is wrong with the world.
Yeah. It's definitely a much more substantive investigation into who somebody is. Now, if you can't stand that person, the thought of listening to it for 3 hours would be brutal. But, you know, it's like you said, you can't really hide.
It is interesting to me, the relationship to the journalism profession. And I get that bona fide journalists take umbrage at the fact that the podcast is the new thing. And I think that's still something to consider. But 97% of what's on MSNBC, Fox News, that's not journalism anyway. And they
Right.
know enough to not even pretend that. You know, when push comes to shove and somebody's testifying in front of a court, like Fox News was about the libel suit on the election machine companies, you know, they're going to say, no, this is entertainment. These are commentators. This is not news. This is not journalism. And so I don't know that the true
George Stephanopoulos knows that more than anyone.
Well, yeah, but
$15
just
million.
like,
Crazy.
you know, so the worries about the demise of standard journalism may still be valid, but like these shows aren't. If these shows all go away, the one with the 5 panelists who are peripheral experts that each get their 7 minutes of ranting. I mean, that's not helping us.
Well, and I know I don't mean to go down this rabbit hole, and this is a topic for a whole another time, but I think the media's kind of done it to themselves too. I mean, the reason they go after the heavy duty opinionated stuff is to play into whatever base is watching their show and to get better ratings. But it's like, for all the talk of, well, we're bona fide journalists. Well, you basically got rid of your journalism cred so that you could go get ratings. And now, fast forward, there's no news shows anymore. It's like,
Yeah.
no, I think your hope is a good one. I mean, hopefully I would be saying the same thing if I were, the roles were reversed and Harris had won. I don't believe any of these people that say whoever wins, the place is going to end. I think I don't know. I think we're not giving the country enough credit.
Yeah. No, I think that's fair.
What do you want to talk fears?
Yeah. What are you worried about?
I honestly was thinking about this in prep for the call, and I am confident in many of the policies that I think he's going to lay out. We've talked about it in depth. I think he's going to have some really good things that he's going to roll out from an economic standpoint. But I do worry about the economy because, as we've talked about before, it's not exactly controlled by the presidency. I mean, I think there's things you can do to screw it up, and there's things you can do to make it better. But anybody predicting the stock market or predicting the economic factors, there's obviously a lot of other factors there. And so,
Right.
And I think it's one of those things. Okay, if you run on fixing the economy, it better look better.
Yeah.
And
I mean, that's a
just feel like
measurable thing.
It's measurable, but it's super high risk too. So that's the thing I see that. And it's not that I want the economy to do well so that it can make Trump look good and make me happy that I voted for him. It's more, I just, I'm 54 years old and I don't want, I'd like my portfolio to continue to do better, it's selfish reasons, but, there's
Sure.
definitely fear. How about you?
I fear that my biggest, deepest concerns about Trump might come true. And which is not to say that I think that they are likely to come true. But yeah, I mean, I think that a lot of the worst fears of the left are certainly overblown. I can't deny that. But I do worry about things that he says. And are we done with NATO? Are we done with those are things that I worry about. And
I thought your fear was going to be that your hope comes true.
No, I don't think so. We've talked about this. I don't want to sound like the sky is falling. I think that that's a bad look for people, but especially the things about immigrants in particular, and what I would call reckless language about immigrants, what the peril of that is for people that are themselves immigrants. It's not nothing. It's not trivial. And so, yeah, I worry about that. Hope I'm wrong.
Well, on that note, my prediction, I do think border crossings are going to reduce substantially. I think that's a very controllable. I think the economy is, like I said, a lot of other factors, but I think the things that he did last time to reduce illegal border crossings worked, and my guess is he'll resume many of those. And I feel like with immigration, there's a kind of like some of your statements, like saying negative things towards immigrants and that it's anti-immigrant, but I kind of feel like having a wide open border such that people are willing to risk their lives going through the jungles of Panama to, that I don't know, I was watching something about the
Darien Gap.
The Darien Gap. People are sludging through there with these coyotes because it's known you can get across the border. I think honestly the potential harm to people by not doing that because they know it's closed is actually probably better for them. Now, people would disagree.
No, I think that's totally valid.
Yeah.
Totally. I wouldn't disagree with that at all.
What's your prediction?
Ooh, it's a good question. I hate to be the prophet of doom, but I will pick up what you mentioned about the economy. I don't think it's going to be great. I don't think that we're going to be. I mean, we've already seen the what I would call my blood money rally in crypto and the stock a bunch of money after the election and felt bad about it. I feel less bad now because a lot of that money has evaporated.
Yeah.
Um, and I don't wish this at all. And the last thing in the world I would want is a tanked economy. So Trump looks bad. That's exactly the kind of moral victory that I don't need in life right now. I do hope things are okay. I think that we are. I think we're in for a rocky road. I think that the Fed's waffling on interest rates recently was a telling moment. I think that the stock market's probably overvalued, and I think that we're due for some unraveling a little bit. I'm not predicting a Great Depression or anything, but I think the first 2 quarters of the year are gonna be a struggle. That's my
Well,
prediction.
I mean, and kind of where we were going before, some of the things, you talk about efficiency and some of the, some of these changes they want to make. There are changes now, I'm going to start skating on thin ice of my economic knowledge and sound like an idiot, but it does seem like there are things they could do to fix certain things that could have unintended negative consequences too, with the
100%.
economy, like things that probably need to be done, but may have an adverse impact on the stock market or other things, And so it's like, it's not that they're not even necessarily bad things. Maybe they need to be done, but that fear of screwing up the stock rally probably leads to a lot of inaction in a lot of areas too.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's exactly it, and I mean, I think that there's some baked in pain coming there, and I don't think that's the end of the world. I don't think that it's like the country's going to fail because of it, but it could be unpleasant. I mean,
Yeah.
100% it could be unpleasant, and people get the idea that these rallies are just bottomless. That the stock market's only going to go up, right? Like, well, no, it doesn't really work that way. And I hope that we can get out of this without a severe correction. But the business cycle is a pretty well worn path. We know that this is how this works.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if you saw the back and forth on H-1B visas this week with Elon and Vivek and some of the people on the right. I think one of the things that helped Trump is the tent is much bigger. But the downside of having a bigger tent is there's going to be disagreements. And it's going to be, I think, for you, it's probably going to be entertainment. For me, it may be a little more, okay, how are they going to get through this? Because there's going to be differences, and when they start stirring, again, like I said in the last podcast, when they start stirring stuff up and cutting programs, I mean, it's going to be an exciting show to watch, just in that regard.
Well, actually, that was going to be my prediction rather than something grandiose and broad minded. My prediction is that the Elon Musk Donald Trump bromance
Yeah,
is not as rosy a year from now as it is right now.
Did you hear? I read that Elon is living in a $2,000 a night cottage on Mar-a-Lago. Trump's probably thinking, how can we? Maybe we're gonna have a water main break or something down there.
Well, Trump doesn't much like people that get media coverage.
No.
Yeah.
Well,
I don't see that ending well.
Yeah, I'd love to know what the dynamic is right now. I mean, it's seemingly one of, well, he's got to be getting sick of the guy. But, at the same time, it's not like, I mean, Trump's not exactly a people pleaser, so right. I don't think he's just doing this because he has to, so I don't know. That will be interesting. Well, and Vivek, he pissed. I mean, I happen to like him and a lot of things, but he was going off on this. I don't know if you read his article, but he's like, the reason we need H-1B visas is we need people that are talent. We need to bring in talent from other countries. And then he goes down this path of, the South Asian community. They do math competitions on weekends, and you American kids need to be doing less sleepovers and more math competitions, and and then that becomes like a whole other. It kind of pissed me off a little bit and then I got to thinking about it. I'm like, I get what he's saying, but at the same time, social skills are important too. I mean, yeah, great, you're the best math wizard, but if you grow up without any social skills, that's a problem too. So,
Yeah.
I don't know. It was, and then I got to thinking more, and then I'm like, and now I sound like a kid that doesn't want to go to school, but I'm like, honestly, with the rise in AI, I mean, it sounds like complete BS. Maybe this is another whiskey induced sling session here, but like, 5 years from now, I mean, not saying you don't need to learn math and science and all these things, but like, with the rise of AI, you're really going to need people that understand people and
Right.
how to relate to people. The quantitative stuff, I mean, yeah, you got to know how to do it, but it's kind of like what we've talked about with AI, like the stuff that it is automating is like the quantitative elements, but the qualitative piece of it is a harder thing to create with artificial intelligence. So
Right. Well,
I'm
actually,
trying to come
that's
up with an
true.
argument there for Vivek.
No, I think that I think I completely agree with you that if anything in a AI world, you can outsource the math.
Yeah,
That's not the problem anymore.
right.
And so I don't know that knowing all, how many decimal places of pi can you cite matters as much in the new world we're living in than does, can you manage the people? It's interesting, kind of related to my job. I'm in a technical field, but I'm not a technical person. I got technical people on my team that can do the number crunching. My job is to link the technology to the people part of the business.
Yeah.
And that's hard to replace. You can't really outsource that. You can outsource, the long division.
Well, then that becomes another topic for another day also of, will there become an AI party? A party of AI droids, will that be its own political party? And maybe it makes sense for them to run everything, and then we can all be, doing pot vape pipes and in a recliner, while they're doing all the work and running everything.
So, did you name a prediction? Did I miss that?
I did. I said I think the number of border crossings going to plummet.
Okay, yeah.
That's
verifiable. I should come up with a number. I don't think the economy is going to look as good. I think it's going to be a rocky road this year, and I don't think it's going to look as great next year. I will say that the unemployment rate will be higher than it is right now. What is it? National unemployment rate now, was it 4.7 that I heard?
Sounds like we need maybe we'll ask our producer to come up with some quantitative stats on both of our accounts, and then we have some kind of, assuming we're still podcasting a couple of years from now, we'll have some type of a results bet wager here of who got the predictions right.
Fair enough, but write it down right now. From the BLS, the November 24 U.S. unemployment rate was 4.2. I'm going to go on record and say November 25, it's going to be higher than that. I hope it's not a lot higher than that, but I think it's going to be higher than 4.2% a year from now.
Yeah, that'll be a good one to watch. I don't know what the border crossings are now, but I don't know that that's a long shot prediction.
No, that's not a reach. What else are you seeing in the news, and what's going on?
Well,
you're thinking, I noticed that a couple of sources have noted that President Biden is now grousing a little bit that he feels like he could have won if he'd have stayed in the race.
I saw that. Yeah.
I'm just going to, as a guy who loves Joe Biden, I'm just going to raise my hand here and say I don't think we would have had a better outcome in the election if he had stayed the candidate.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, honestly, I wonder though, had he not, you wonder how the outcome would be had he never gone to a debate. If he did the COVID strategy, the basement Joe, don't come out, that would have probably, well, one, they wouldn't have kicked him off the ticket because it wouldn't have been, had that kind of a public, I don't know. I feel that's a whole thing. It's like, I don't know. I feel like it's more like a public proof point. It's like there's so many people in the media and everything, for the last 3-4 years, like, oh, he's fine. And like, oh, really? I mean, the guy was not fine for the last 4 years. It's not like, he was the Joe of 20 years ago up until a month before the debate. I mean, it's been
Right.
an issue for a while. And I feel like if they'd kept him hidden more, though, there wouldn't have been an impetus to move on from him.
Yeah, maybe. Clearly people knew that his condition was not optimal. Someday it's going to be a really interesting book to read, I think,
Yeah.
about what happened with that. And, I am on record as saying that I think that somebody on the staff realized that he was not in a shape to be ready for prime time for the balance of the campaign, and that's why that debate happened. That's why that debate got agreed to by his team.
Yeah.
And insofar as that's the case, I commend their patriotism.
Although, what would have been the motivation for his team to dump him? Because honestly, his team was running the show the last couple of years. They had as much power as the presidency. I would think there'd be less of a motivation of them. It almost makes me think it was him pushing to, no, I can debate. Like, Joe, no, please, no, like, because I mean, honestly, his people benefited from, they had a lot more power with his diminished state.
Do you think it's impossible that at least some of them saw it as a matter of national importance and put country ahead of personal ambition? You think nobody does that?
Well, I think they would have done that a lot sooner than once the public saw it. But your point is that was their cry for help.
Yeah.
Just putting them on the stage.
Yeah. I believe that someone or a group, a faction within the administration realized that if he appeared on a live stage versus Donald Trump on national television, that he's going to get butchered and his candidacy is going to be over. And they realized that it was going to happen, whether it happened in October or in March. So let's go early and give the party the chance to recuperate.
Yeah. Yeah. That would make sense. I mean, that would be a logical thing to do. It's kind of one of those things. If the thought of having the power, and if you could, it's like,
right. But you've got the power. You've either got the power till
it's limited.
June,
right. Yeah,
or January. And if you pull the trigger, and if you're part of the coup that tenders him out, you look good in the book of history.
Yeah.
Where you don't, I don't know. I still think we see this. John Dean from Watergate with the kind of still on the self-preservation restoration tour. Like he was all over it all over the summer. And, he's a guy who has looked at, he was as crooked and as much of a shyster as the rest of the people in the Nixon administration, a bunch of crooks. And he was right there with them. And he saw the ship sinking earlier than most, and he was the first rat off and has portrayed himself as a, truth teller throughout history for 50 years since. I don't know. I think that that's not a crazy motivation for people.
As soon as you mentioned John Dean, it reminded me of that. Who's that guy, that governor? Remember the guy?
Howard Dean.
Howard Dean. Oh, yeah. That was such a crazy moment because all because of some weird thing he said in that weird chat. Like that was the derail of the whole campaign, wasn't it?
Well, it was, but why was that permitted to happen? Right?
Yeah.
I guess
if we put him up there, he's going to say this stupid crap of,
I'm the conspiratorialist, but why was a hot mic with a cry of enthusiasm seen as this is a bridge too far. We can't handle
Yeah.
this. And if you want to look for, like, if you're the type that's thinking that everything's a predetermined scam and they've already decided this, that would be a good example.
Yeah. Yeah. No,
He,
that's
he failed to kiss the right ring or something, and they're like, "Yeah, you're done here."
he's getting ready to shout again. Put the mic on.
It really does. It almost is like a mafia hit. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, and this goes down a path of the whole concept that you fly out a formation, and we don't like to think about it, but any party could decimate somebody if they so desired. Like the power. So I was reading I was watching a podcast, actually Joe Rogan with Rod Blagojevich the other day. That was
Ooh.
really interesting. Him talking through the whole process of the whole prosecution, and it was, I mean, like nothing. He didn't do anything materially. I mean, he had conversations with people, and the stuff. It's just, to me, it's an example of, if they want to come after you, they can come after you.
Yeah. Well, I mean, far be it for me to defend a crooked Illinois politician, but I have to laugh. They acted like, oh my gosh, we caught him red-handed because he said, I got Barack Obama's Senate seat to name somebody. I'm not going to give that away for free. And the assumption was that he was looking for a bribe, and he probably was, don't get me wrong. But as a politician, when you're handed an asset of patronage of that value, he's like, I'm not just going to spend this for nothing. If I'm
Well,
going to
but
make
I mean, that
somebody a
was
senator, I'm going to get something for it.
well, and that was his whole thing. He's like, I wasn't trying to get money, but I was looking for a political trade. He's like, you do that all the time in politics. And he said it all started with, because it all started, an Obama emissary came to him initially, and they were trying to get one of Obama's picks to be named. And he's like, he was kind of talking through the political process of how this works. Somebody, not like Obama's not going to say it, but somebody who knows him, they're going to send like an intermediary, and somebody comes and says, hey, we'd like you to do this. But whenever they say, we'd like you to do something, it's like there's this known that, okay, well, what do you want in return type of a thing.
Right.
And it's like, I don't know. I guess my point is like where he was going, and, and obviously his opinion on it's different than what others may conclude. But his point was, essentially, I pissed off the wrong people and they came after me. And, you can argue whether or not that was the case with him or not, but it is something that happens and
Totally.
could happen really easily to anybody. And it's scary.
Totally. Yeah. Yeah. And there's no way to, like, there's no stopping that if that's what happens to you. None. There's no recourse.
Yeah. And it's, yeah, the political party establishment has, I mean, there's a lot of power there, to be used in nefarious ways, unfortunately.
Well,
and I don't know how you fix that, other than, you can say, well, you get rid of the two-party system. Well, that's not viable either,
Right. I'm my appeal to history. I'm working on a book on the Civil War, as I have been for a while. And one of the lectures, it's a series of lectures, not a book. But one of the most recent things was they were talking about partisan politics during the Civil War. And the Democrats were actively in opposition to Lincoln, which is, it's crazy to think about, right? Like the dude that they built the monument for and they put on the penny. Like there were people actively in the press saying that Lincoln doesn't know what the hell he's doing.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And there was a robust dialogue. And in fact, the Democrat nominee for the 1864 election was George McClellan, who was the general of the army that Lincoln fired. And so there was this, I mean, it was on both sides. In the Confederacy, they didn't tolerate that. They were fearful of political parties. So there were no political parties in the Confederacy. But so all of the opposition to Jefferson Davis was below the table.
Oh,
It's just interesting that
yeah.
the Union carried on business as usual. We're in the middle of a war with half of our country. We're going to hold the election on schedule and on time. And this was interesting that Lincoln was the one driving for it, that they allowed the soldiers to vote.
Hmm.
And when you think about that, the opposition was Lincoln says we continue the war, we stick up for Union. McClellan was the former general whom the men in the troops loved because he wouldn't fight. He never took him into battle, but he was running on he was not running on a platform of ending the war immediately, but he was like, yeah, we need to back. And so then you've got 2 million troops get to vote, and they voted something like 80% for Lincoln.
Wow.
But the guts, the courage to hold that election, right? Wouldn't
Yeah.
you be tempted if you're Lincoln, like, well, we're fighting a war, like let's kick this down the can for a few years. No, not only am I going to stand for election, I'm going to make it possible for the troops that I'm ordering into battle to vote a referendum on whether I'm still the president. It
Wow.
just gives me chills and the kind of political courage that just does not exist today, either side.
Yeah. Well, and the consistency of a country's system to do that in a situation where the leader could have, if you were Vladimir Putin, would have said, well, no, we're not going to hold elections for 25 years. No, they do hold elections every year, but I think he wins 99% of the vote or something like
Right.
that. Wow, everybody loves me so much. That or they die. Yeah, they said he was this week celebrated 25 years in power. I mean, it's like when we would debate around the Iraq War days, and you go to fight against the country, and you say, well, we have nothing against the Iraqi people. It's the military and the leadership we want out. And I think you'd pointed out at one point. It's like, well, no, maybe we have a problem with the people if they let this jackass stay in power. Like they haven't really done anything about it.
I mean, do they have any responsibility in this, right?
Right. Yeah. And I think about that with Russia. Like, why? Like, they got rid of the evil empire and then, immediately bring in this jackass. It's what is it about? I guess it's just it was such a weak. It was a quote unquote democracy, but it was so weak and without any protections that it was easy to just bulldoze.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's the case.
I was listening to somebody talk about, gosh, I wish I had the context so I could give it to our producer, but they were talking about Bill of Rights and freedom, our Bill of Rights and our freedoms. And this guy was like, well, yeah, I mean, other freedom of speech, freedom of assembly. I mean, they have those same freedoms in Russia, and all these countries have something like the Bill of Rights, but it's not worth the paper it's written on because they don't enforce it. Like what's different about our Bill of Rights is that it actually matters. And some of these other countries, they say it, but nobody ascribes to it because the leadership just has no accountability there.
Yeah. Well, and I guess I would say that, again, not trying to go back to my fear or but we need to bloody well not take it for granted. And that is not to say that I'm immediately threatening that Trump's the end of our country, but I like that's one where I need you to you can disagree with me, but I don't want you to say, oh, there's no way. It's not. There's no risk of that. There's not zero risk of it for any party in power, because as you've pointed out, people get that power, that it's attractive, and I don't think that just the fact that it's written down in a glass case in the National Archives, I don't think we should take it for granted. Which is what's a fine line to walk. Is how do I say that? How do I say don't take it for granted? We need to be vigilant about it, without saying, like, I'm not ringing the bell saying things are on fire or that it's the end of the world. But I don't think we should just assume that, oh, our country's fine. I don't think we should assume that.
No, I don't think so either. But what is intriguing about it with Trump, and for instance, people have said, "Well, he's a fascist." Okay, what did the fascists do? They restricted free speech. They killed the Jews. Okay, this is a guy that moved our embassy to Jerusalem. I mean, his support for Israel is probably more stronger than any president. He's, advocates for a free economy. A fascism is a totalitarian economy. Like it's like, I guess my point is just there's these fears, but I would be more concerned if these fears were grounded in objective evidence. I think a lot of the fears are because of the unpredictability of the person and he says crazy stuff and people think, okay, what if he goes down this path? It's kind of like the thing we were talking about with gay rights and in the concern of your friend. And that's when I was like, well, he just appointed the Treasury Secretary, the guy to be the Treasury Secretary, the highest cabinet position of anybody who's a gay man, openly gay, married man. So it's like that fear of somebody who's gay that he's going to crush gay rights. I look at it and I think, I mean, he's more supportive of the gay community than the last guy, but because of another set of things that people have in their head about the man, that's a risk. You know what I mean? It's kind of like, it's like anything. We all evaluate the world based on our own biases and opinions. And so, I might have some paranoia about somebody on the left, and you're probably like, why the hell would you think that? That's not a risk. But it's because of how I view that particular individual or that background. You know what I mean?
Sure. And again, I don't dispute that. I mean, I'm acknowledging the distinctive position that I'm taking from the position that I see, But I still think you can say without being a matter of fear mongering, like we take this stuff for granted at our peril.
Oh yeah. No, absolutely. Absolutely.
And so we need to not what sounds like ridiculous paranoia to you, at least honor the fact that it's not impossible that we could wind up in a case where our country's values and traditions are in peril.
Yeah.
And we shouldn't just be dismissive of that.
Yeah, not at all. I actually watched the other night. You'd be proud of me, Kent. I watched I don't know what the name of the documentary is, but it was about January 6th, and it's all footage from January 6th. And I mean, I came away from that really pissed at these idiots, because they're showing a video of these people. And I'm like, the cops are attempting to do their job, and these dipshits are just plowing through them. Like what are you doing? That that's not yours. That's ours. You don't get the right to go in there. So I don't know. I guess my point is I don't have any sympathy for any of those sons of bitches that they arrested on January 6th. I still don't think Trump instigated it, but I certainly can understand the concerns. I guess my anger, and that's, I think, kind of a case maybe of what we're getting at here, because I feel like you see January 6th and you're like, that son of a bitch Trump, he did this and he got everybody spun up and they did this. I look at this and I look at these idiots. It reminds me of the Seinfeld line when George's parents are in the car and they're coming from the dinner, and the mom is like, we are sitting there like idiots. They were lamenting the fact they didn't have cake after the meal. Anyways, but I look at these people and they're just idiots. Like, what the hell? Number one, I mean, they're breaking a window on the Capitol building. What the hell are you thinking? I mean, what do you how do you think this is going to end exactly, asshole?
Right.
I mean, you think they're just gonna, Jim Smith from Iowa wants to break in a window and walk around, like, yeah, that'll be fine. What are you thinking?
Yeah, completely agree.
And honestly,
I was going to say, full disclosure, I don't think it was like a plot to instigate that. But there was a moment where it became clear that it was happening. And I think if he had tweeted to him, I think that they might have gone home. and that he was just completely unwilling to even consider that. I think that's a problem.
Well, and then the part I wonder about is because I do think I don't know, some of these people are like, and certainly you're watching the video of them and they're like, well, Trump would want us here, like these people project him in ways that you wonder, does he know he's projected in that way? I just feel like it's kind of like I don't know. These people are like, and they remind me of John Hinckley in the, well, Jamie Curtis wants me to be here. Like, Jamie Curtis doesn't give a shit about you, pal. Like, I want to be like, dude, Trump doesn't care. They think, like they're in lockstep with him, and it's like, no, you're
I
like,
mean, if we know one thing about him, it's that he's probably not that interested in what you're doing here, buddy.
yeah, I mean, it's like a lot of the other stuff that happens with supporters of somebody. It's like this asshole that did this in New Orleans. I saw somewhere like, well, he was a registered Democrat in 2020. Like, okay, I don't care, what comes out. If he comes out and he was a Kamala Harris supporter and he hung on Kamala Harris. I'm not saying this. I'm just saying if it were to come out like that, you're not going to get a guy like me who's going to be like, well, see,
Right.
Kamala Harris. No, this guy's an asshole, and I feel like that's the thing with these people on January 6th. It's like, I think it disparages the whole case to say Trump caused them to do this. No, they were an idiot that thought they could ram a chair through you know what I mean? They're like, those people piss me off. Like, what? No, nobody supports you. Like, this wasn't, you can't use the case that Trump got you to do this. You're an idiot because you did that. And it's on you, I don't know. It just angered me from like and I get what you're saying. I certainly, I can understand that viewpoint. Makes sense what you're saying. I guess it angers me that these people would do this and, then try to say somebody else talked them into it. Like, whatever,
Yeah, I know what you mean. I think in general, let's
I got a little fired up there. I wasn't yelling at you, but I mean, we have people of all ages that listen to the podcast. So forgive me for using a couple of expletives. We do try to restrict our use of expletives. I will say that. And, I feel like it's honestly, with alcohol involved in political discussions, the fact neither one of us has ever dropped an F-bomb on the podcast, I think that's a admirable thing.
We're winning every day of that.
That's right.
Well, I know you've got things to attend to, and
I guess
probably draw it, but always good to talk to you. And we'll check back in at the end of the year about our predictions.
Yeah.
Hey, thanks for joining us on this episode of Bourbon and Rum Podcast. We hope you enjoyed it. Remember to subscribe on your favorite platform and leave us a review. Your feedback helps us keep the good spirits flowing.
And we invite you to join this conversation. Follow us on our Facebook page. Let us know what you think. Let us know what you want to hear.
And until next time, cheers.